Unspoken Issues.
Okay, well, next up, here we go. We're getting into Shadowhawk #1. So that Cyberforce and Shadowhawk in our average was tied for 5. But like I said, I'm giving you the nod here because you had Shadowhawk higher on the list. So Shadowhawk hits, and I think I talked a little bit about this in Bailey's podcast, but I knew of Shadowhawk. I remember hearing a little bit about it, but mainly because one of my best friends was picking up the book. And again, this is a guy, he wasn't reading comics steadily. He knew, I rarely knew him to buy a comic. I remember he was reading Infinity War at one point. His tastes in comics, but they were different from mine. He's reading something that I'm not. I'm reading something that he's not. So Shadowhawk falls right in that line where he's reading Shadowhawk. I'm not taking my money and putting it down for Jim Valentino's Shadowhawk. I'm buying all of Liefeld stuff that I can get a hold of.
Right.
I'm investing into the Wildstorm universe. The Shadowhawk stuff just didn't speak to me. But he was telling me you gotta read these. And some of the stuff that was going on, I was kind of following in Wizard magazine, if I remember right. I knew the hype of like, who is Shadowhawk? Who could this possibly be? And I mean, boy, did they lay into that there in the first issue.
That was kind of the gimmick is, Shadowhawk, he appears, on half the pages, but his identity's a secret until issue 2 of the second miniseries. So yeah, that was kind of the deal, was like you were supposed to try and kind of figure out who he is based on the cast of
clues and
characters. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead. We'll talk about. I mean, we'll get into Shadowhawk here. Shadowhawk for you, though. You're picking this. You picked it up. First issue, right?
Yep.
All right.
And this is interesting. The cover, it's the only, as far as the founding creators' first issues, it's the only one that has a gimmick cover. It's got foil embossed image of the Shadowhawk helmet. The Shadowhawk logo is foil embossed, and so is the Image logo. So,
are the eyes embossed as well? Or
no, they're just kind of, they're red, but yeah, and very cool cover. Valentino drew the helmet and Liefeld did the inks on it. I think I read that somewhere.
You crack open the book. This thing hit shelves August 14th of 1992. Created, written, and illustrated by Jim Valentino. Letters by Diane Valentino. And colors by Digital Chameleon. Name of this story is A Nightmare Walking. Shadowhawk, we meet our character. We meet our superhero, our vigilante, right at the beginning here, doing some undercover work, baiting in some Soho baddies and breaking their spines. The cops, after he has this altercation, he breaks one of the spines. This has been going on for a while, apparently. The cops have been trying to find out who is doing this to these people. These backs are getting broken, leaving these ne'er-do-wells in some pretty bad shape. But they keep coming up empty. Plus, they're getting spread a little thin, especially since there's a villain by the name of Arson who keeps going around burning lower-income neighborhoods. A lot of these housing developments are going up in flames because Arson is this villain named Arson is involved. And the cops haven't caught him either. Now, in Washington Heights, a very concerned grandmother starts a fight with some street hoods. A real smart move, Grandma. Starts a fight with some street hoods, but luckily Shadowhawk then again appears to even the score. This time the police are able to roll up as the fight is happening, recognizing Shadowhawk as the one that's been going around breaking people's spines. Shadowhawk uses some signature weapons to escape the police just when Lieutenant Lou Jax arrives on the scene. Is that a coincidence? I wonder. I don't know. Now, elsewhere, a young reporter named Jamie hears the cops are encountering Shadowhawk and wants to go to the scene, but her boss, her editor, I think, won't let her go because the mayor does not wish to cause a panic. Now, Arson, our villain Arson, ends up going to go see this lady by the name of Ms. Bold, B-O-L-D-D. I'm going to start spelling things like Liefeld does. B-O-L-D-D. Bold. Who says he just wanted to look into the eyes of a beautiful woman named Vendetta. So he shows up. I don't know why he shows up there, but he's just like, hey, and he kisses her hand. And he's like, I just wanted to see the beautiful eyes of the one they call Vendetta. So I assume that's going to either be a villain, or something by the name of Vendetta. Now, after he leaves, Jamie, the one we were talking about, that reporter that we were talking about earlier, she shows up to discuss with Miss Bold about her editor that did not want her to go to the scene. Miss Bold begins to give her massage, I think, and asking Jamie to tell her everything. So, I mean, we're setting some things up here. Miss Bold, this Vendetta, I assume she owns a paper. I think that's what's going on here. She owns a newspaper or something.
Yeah.
Okay, and she's involved with arson, so there's some shady things going on with this lady. Now we end the
She's
book
sort of
with
the kingpin of this series.
great comparison. The way we end this book, Shadowhawk's basically leaping through the air looking for his next challenge, and that's it. So I mean, we get our introduction to Shadowhawk. I think the main plot of what we're getting out of this first issue is that he is clearly in confrontation with the police. The police are trying to find him. And then we kind of set up our villainess, vendetta here. Kind of flunky she has working under him by the name of Arson. There definitely isn't like on the nose social undertones going on in this book. But I mean, they're talking about, the lower income neighborhoods going up in flames. Specifically, if I remember correctly, isn't like later on as the issue goes, isn't there like a racist bent to where people think there may be a racial issue involved with Shadowhawk?
Yes. Without getting into spoilers for the identity of Shadowhawk. Okay. In the second Shadowhawk miniseries, there's a character called Hawk's Shadow who is sort of who is sort of he has a similar armor kind of, but he's got a lot of blades and stuff, and he's basically killing black people. That's what I'm getting confused with. Shadowhawk confronts him, catches him and stuff, and basically Hawk's Shadow is like, hey, I'm not going to say it, but he's like, I only attack these people. Right. Uses a racial slur. So yeah, he's like a white supremacist basically. That's right. And he was inspired by Shadow. Like we see in the first opening here, Shadowhawk's first confrontation with these criminals, it's 3 black guys. Right. That he breaks all their backs or whatever. So by the time the second series rolls around, Hawk's Shadow, this guy has been inspired because he thinks Shadowhawk is killing black people or attacking black people, and he sees him as like a hero because of that. But I really liked the second series as well. But I was a big Shadowhawk fan. The costume I think is fantastic, especially the helmet. But yeah, there's definitely some as I was reading this, I was like, now they probably would not have Shadowhawk beating up on 3 hoodlums, 3 black guys as hoodlums, basically in the opening. But that does play into where the story goes later down the line. When Hawk's Shadow shows up, there are criminals of other races that he fights with in this issue as well. But yeah, I can see it being kind of iffy. And this is almost like 80s New York City. This is before, I guess, Giuliani, quote unquote, cleaned up New York. Yeah. So it's still kind of like a lot of scummy areas and stuff. And that's kind of the New York that Shadowhawk is operating in. Mm-hmm. So Valentino, when you're looking at him compared to what everybody else brings to the table at Image, he's definitely not known for his bombastic, dynamic art style. Right. He's a capable artist, I don't have anything negative to say about his art, but it's just not the exciting, extreme style, it's more of a classical comic book storytelling stuff. You're not going to be blown away by what you see happen in a panel or two. Mm-hmm. There's definitely some brutality going on here. This is the most violent Image book to this point, I think. Right, dude. I mean, and they're all kind of violent. Yeah, but this is the most violent. But yeah, you're right. And I don't think anybody even dies in this issue, but it's just the brutality of Shadow. And the whole hook, outside of just being who is Shadowhawk, the big hook leading into it was Valentino's doing this, vigilante character who doesn't just beat up criminals. His whole thing is, I've caught you in the act. I know you're guilty. Even if you get a light sentence or get off on technicality, doesn't matter. I'm going to break your back, so you're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life. You're going to pay for what you're doing, what I've caught you doing or whatever. So kind of dark and twisted. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back here at the letters page. I mentioned this. They knew this is what they were. This was going to be what they kind of hung their hat on with Shadowhawk, is the mystery of who this person was. You weren't going to learn who Shadowhawk was right at the beginning. You were going to have to put things together. But I mean, this letters page starts out: who is Shadowhawk?
Mm-hmm.
Could he be the most obvious person, Lieutenant Jax, or the least, Hojo? Is he black or white, male or female, tall or short? Who is Shadowhawk? It's up to you, the reader, to decipher the clues and tell us who you think he is. And it's funny because I think, is there a contest or something? Because
yeah, there's a contest, and he details in the letters page back here. You can't just guess. You have to send in who you think it is and give us legitimate reasons why you think it's this person.
Right.
Don't just send your best guess. And the winner, I think got some original art or something. I can't remember. But
actually, I think you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, that was like and he didn't do a letters page contest like a lot of the Image guys did, because he wanted to do this instead. And the Who is Shadowhawk, that's even on the cover. Like, you can't see it because it's black and there's no outline on it.
Mm-hmm.
But above the Shadowhawk logo, it's embossed. The Who is. You can't even see it unless you only can feel it, really, or if you look at it in the right kind of light or whatever. But
okay, well, pick a panel.
I was tempted to go with Shadowhawk breaking through the glass.
Oh, typical Unspoken Issues fare right there.
I like a lot of the images of him, in the fight scenes. I really love that costume and the helmet, and like he's got the typical shoulder pads, for a 90s character. He's also got claws, like knuckle claws on his hands, and he's got like almost like a shield, like on one arm. It's not like a Captain America shield. It's just like kind of almost, you think of like somebody holding pads for a kickboxer.
Right.
On one of his arms. But yeah, I am gonna I think go with that image of him busting through the glass. That's my image. That's my panel of the issue.
I'll go with him busting through that one guy's back. When you're reading this, what does that happen? Like 3 or 4 pages in?
It's early, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's dug his elbow into this dude's back, and it says it crack. Like, I don't know. I mean, you watch The Ultimate Fighter or fighting in UFC and all that stuff, but I know it takes a bit of strength to break some bones. I'm curious as to what it would do to. I mean, you would probably have to perfect, like, hitting that person right in the right spot, stretching them out the right way in order to break a spine.
I would think he would need to use that thing on his arm.
You're right. Yeah.
But he's not. That's the arm that's holding the guy by the neck. So it's the other arm that he's using to break his back. So
what's the other arm? I'm trying to find a picture.
It doesn't have anything really on it. He's got an elbow spike, thing.
Do you think that's what it is? Like, is that a spike on his elbow?
Let me look and see.
All of it, the rest of it all looks like pads.
He is kind of digging his elbow in, it looks like. He also breaks, I think, somebody's back. There's like a 3 or 4 page preview of Shadowhawk in Youngblood #2, I think. And I think that was his first appearance. And I think he breaks somebody's back in that one too, but I can't remember how that one. It was similar to this, I think. One more thing about this issue. When the reporter is arguing with her editor, she mentions the bugle.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was kind of cool. I don't think there's a real bugle in New York, so I'm assuming that's a Daily Bugle reference.
Yeah, which, again, that was the one thing that I remember noticing, was how untethered they were. They weren't beholden to be like, oh, let's not mention this other universe. They could do that. Oh, let's not draw this character from this other universe in our comic and call him something different.
I think Youngblood #3 has Clark Kent and Lois Lane.
That's great.
at a press conference,
asking
questions.
I love that. That's when I started seeing stuff like that, I was paying attention to Image Comics. I wanted to see that happen. Thanks for joining us.
Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com and the Rattleitch Broadcasting Network, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.